Charlie Kirk has joined us. Charlie was with us at the RNCs, now with us at the DNCs, of course, with Turning Point USA.
Good job.
Okay, not Talking Point USA.
Do you think now, in retrospect, Trump made a bad decision?
But to understand what he said about the childless cat women was that he was saying that when you have children, that your society is better governed when your leaders are having children, when they're not. Otherwise, when they're not having children. I think you guys could agree with that, right?
No, I don't think that's true at all. I mean, look.
Hey fam, welcome back to One and Done. Today we're jumping on the TYT train. We have Cenk, Uygur, and Kasparian, and their special guest is Charlie Kirk. Now this video was done a little while ago at the DNC convention. Now a very interesting subject and topic. Kasparian pushes Charlie on some comments JD Vance made about single catwoman or single childless catwoman. Charlie gives his thoughts. There's a bit of back and forth between him, Cenk, and Anna. It's very interesting. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like, smash the subscribe, ring the notification bell, share this video far and wide, and let's roll that tape.
You know, it does appear that JD Vance was a bit of a risky pick for Donald Trump. And I get why he chose JD Vance. I get the strategy behind it, trying to appeal to the Rust Belt voters. And also, Trump was more confident, thinking that he's running against Joe Biden. Do you think now, in retrospect, Trump made a bad decision?
I think it was a great decision. I think that he was maybe expecting a little bit of a honeymoon as a VP, and he received a hurricane. He unearthed some, clips from my show and others about the childless cat stuff, which we could talk about, but I think there's more interesting stuff to discuss. But yeah, I mean, the last couple of weeks, I think he's been on point. He went on the Sunday News show, to his great credit. And Cenk, you pressed me on the donor thing. I'll press you on one thing. You say that Kamala didn't do a sit-down interview because she didn't get her economic plan. I mean, she is the sitting VP. She could take some questions, right?
I totally agree.
I think
she should have been doing the interviews, even if she didn't have all that stuff ready to go.
You got to talk to the press if you're the candidate, right? Even if you don't have your plans together. But
now, apparently, she does have an interview coming up on CNN with Dana Bash. We know that that's going to be absolute softball interview. Not only that, she's got Tampon Tim right next to her. So, like, seriously, how she can't field or take any questions without a babysitter there.
To JD's credit, he sat down with 3 Sunday shows on one day, and I thought he handled it masterfully. I thought he handled it beautifully. I could tell you what I'm hearing from Republicans that don't love Trump, because there are Republicans out there that don't love Trump. JD Vance is a very sophisticated, smart, and appealing candidate to many of them that are making it more even comfortable vote for Trump right now. And yeah, look, we're going to see what ends up happening. We've had a lot of coverage around both VPs. I think Walz was an awful choice. I think Shapiro would have been far better. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Just looking at it from a Pennsylvania standpoint, we were like, please don't pick Shapiro. Please don't pick Shapiro. And anyway, and I'm sure you guys feel the same about Vance, right? You were like, please pick somebody else or pick Rubio or whatever.
I thought,
but
Vance was an interesting choice.
It's a regional pick where definitely in the Rust Belt. Let me also say this. You guys have written books before and published books, I'm sure. JD Vance has sold over 1 million copies of his book since the VP. Now, that's not about enrichment. That's 1 million voters that are coming in contact with your story. The Netflix special has been top 5 since he's been announced. That is a way to communicate with voters in an asymmetrical, non-traditional way. What we find, though, is that VP picks can hurt you more than they can help you. Yeah. Sarah Palin, right? So as time goes on, I'm confident that JD Vance can now succeed in the one remaining spotlight, which is the VP debate against Walz. I think he's going to be able to hold his own for sure.
Look, much has been made about his pretty offensive comments about couples or women who don't have children, but the media hasn't dug into Vance declaring himself a post-liberal conservative yet. And I think that's going to be a problem for him because, I mean, he is rebuffing the notion of a liberal democracy.
Well, or is he rebuffing neoliberalism?
I don't. Neoliberalism is something entirely different. No, I don't like it.
So maybe that's what he's rebuffing.
No, I mean, but post-liberal conservative is not about neoliberalism. I think
you're putting words in his mouth, but he.
He hangs out with the what's the name?
Curtis Yarvin. Yeah, had him on my show, and I've debated with him on my show because he wants something that I don't want. But neoliberalism, as you all know, is unfettered free trade,
right,
adventurous foreign wars, and a very, very aggressive international policy, and also mass immigration. JD Vance definitely disagrees with all 3 of those things. Your question is what? As people dive into that,
I just want to know if
Before Anna gets into that, I have been extremely impressed with JD Vance since he's been on the campaign trail. Since he's been interviewed by mainstream liberal media, he's absolutely destroyed them. He reminds me a little bit of Vivek. I've called him Vivek Light because he doesn't quite have what Vivek has. Vivek's extremely unique, but he has some great qualities. And the other guy, Tim, I think it's Tim Cotton, who destroyed, I think it was MSNBC, or was it ABC? Anyway, one of those mainstream liberal media. The Republicans have some really good, talented people on board at the moment. I've also mentioned before Byron Donalds, obviously Vivek, he's right at the top, Vivek. And Charlie Kirk, wow, he's super impressive. The guy's like 28.
you believe that he is in line with the Curtis Yarvins who do not believe in our liberal democracy.
First of all, no, I don't. I mean, I talked to Curtis Yarvin and I disagree with him. You could talk to people all the time. JD Vance's record is very clear, and I don't want to like get too down in this rabbit hole, but to understand what he said about the childless cat women was that he was saying that when you have children, that your society is better governed when your leaders for having children, when they're not, otherwise when they're not having children. I think you guys could agree with that, right?
No, I don't think that's true at all.
So,
I mean, look,
Wow, that's interesting. They both immediately said, no. Funny thing is, though, where does your next generation come from? Now, if your leaders aren't having children, right? Leaders are supposed to be the peak, whether they're the leaders of industry, whether they're the leaders in politics, leaders in any field, whether they're, leaders in athleticism, sports leaders, thought leaders. You'd want your leaders having babies. You want that offspring. You want that or the genetics to carry on to the next generation. Why wouldn't you want your leaders having babies?
Can I just ask a hypothetical?
Hold on. Let me
50 childless people and 50 people with families. Which group of people would make better decisions for the country the next 100 years?
I think that it is totally wrong to assume that
you don't think that having children makes any bearing on your politics?
No. I don't.
I think
you don't think it does something to you where like you think about the next generation? And
I think about the next generation all the time, and I don't have children.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing with Anna Kasparian. The interesting thing about her is she's changed her position on so many things. Now, not immediately. She's fought back against positions, and then she's, said, I've changed my mind. And one of them is she loves serving her husband. And she also admitted that surprised her, that she loves to serve her husband. So I think once she has children, now I think she has nieces or nephews, but that is different to having your own children. You'll be willing to die for your own children. You're not going to be dying for your nieces and nephews. Well, maybe, but you definitely will be putting your life on the line for your children.
I think about educating our kids. I'm worried about the fact that so many children in America are illiterate and cannot read. I think about the future of this country all day, every day, right? Like, I don't think having children is like the end all be all of whether or not you care about the future of this country. I love this country.
I want you to be able to have kids. I don't want to make this about you, Anna, because I have a lot of respect for you. But I could tell you as someone who has had kids and has not had kids, it does profoundly, deeply change.
Yeah.
And it changes your politics. It changes everything. And that's what JD Vance was saying is that.
The funny thing is that she will argue a man shouldn't tell a woman about or have an opinion on a woman's bodily autonomy. In other words, shouldn't tell a woman she should or shouldn't have an abortion. But she's sitting there talking about the difference between having kids and not having kids and whether your position would change or not. Now, she doesn't have kids, so it's just an interesting perspective that I just thought of there.
When a society starts having children, it starts to throw off the wiring of the multi-generational framing of how public policy decisions can be made. We're not going to agree on that, but I think it's rather common sense that when a society ceases to have children, the society ceases to exist.
Okay, so I'm going to answer that, and I want to ask you about Tim Walz in a second. But I want to let our linear audience know, like if you're watching on Samsung, Roku, all those places, we're going to continue. We're going to have speeches. We're going to have more interviews. TYT.com. So now it's the show is embedded on the homepage of TYT.com, so you can keep watching there all day, every day. Okay, so now Charlie.
Yes.
So number one, look, everybody has a different experience. So I have kids, and I have the same exact way of thinking about things before the kids and after the kids.
So that's so interesting. Having kids didn't change your politics at all?
Not 1%.
Or your worldview?
Not 1%. No.
I can vouch for that.
Having kids didn't change you?
No. I mean, I love my kids more than you could possibly imagine.
So you didn't learn something about humanity or like how to pass values down or?
Yeah. No, I've been thinking about that all along.
What values? What?
That's incredible. I'm not doubting it, but like your why didn't change? Like why you fight so hard?
Yeah, no, it didn't at all. Yeah.
He's confused.
Because I kind of view, I mean, this is really corny, but I view the audience and the voters and the average American as family.
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
I was already looking out for them.
So if this is a gruesome hypothetical, but if a shooter came in, and would you defend your kids first or a stranger's kids, or are they the same?
So, I mean, first of all,
oh, that's the body shot. That's a body shot. You could see him. He flinched. You could see it in his face. That was extremely uncomfortable. He took that one to the ribs.
that's not going to change your opinion on healthcare. It's not going to change
No, but
your
I mean,
opinion
like,
on
obviously
immigration.
defend your kids first, right?
But of course you're going to defend your kids.
No, but that's the point, is that so you have an attachment to your kids, so that has changed you.
So of course you have an attachment to your own kids, of course.
So then that's the perspective that changes when you have kids, that you're going to protect your kids before anybody else. So then that means when you make decisions for the political future of your children, you're going to take your children and your family into consideration. Well, you should when you're making these decisions. I love how Charlie has just turned that logic straight back on Cenk.
Of course I attacked him first,
right?
No, but it doesn't change my view on the world, on humanity, on politics, on policy.
But it does change your view on the world and humanity, because now you're putting your little ones before yourself and before everybody else. So it does change your worldview.
Right. But if there's a shooting, of course I'm going to cover my kids first. I get it. But by the way, like in the Israel scenario, but I wouldn't say, bomb other people's kids to protect mine.
No, I don't believe that. But my politics is all about protecting my kids.
So, okay,
that's the difference.
Hold on.
Actually, that goes to the
you're about protecting
everyone, right? And so, but that goes to the core, Charlie. And that's why this is such an interesting conversation between conservatives and.
But when you're protecting your kids, you are protecting other kids because of the decisions you make. If you're making your decisions based on, say, the next generation children, now suppose that would depend, though, what you want to pass down to your children. I think therein lies the problem with Mr. Uygur.
Progressives, because progressive ideology is help someone you don't know,
including non-American citizens.
So, I mean, generally speaking, I want to help the whole world, but of course, you take care of. You've got these circles that you got your family, nation, etc.
When people don't have
but my point is, you guys circle the wagons.
Yeah.
And
see, he just said it himself. Family.
We think about everybody in a way that's empathetic.
But this is the problem: is abstractions like that is how we end up invading Iraq and forget that our veterans are starving, because we worry more about foreign adventures than the immediate. And so,
but that was for the military-industrial complex and the oil companies. That wasn't for us or our kids.
Look at Lindsey Graham, people like that have like very weird personal lives. They tend to not care as much about the immediate. They care much more about the foreign and the abstract. But I'm curious though.
That's a good point.
You don't think that family formation necessarily creates better politics?
Charlie, I want to ask you something. So it's what you believe, right?
No, I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk.
No, it's okay. Put that aside for a second. What you personally believe, put that aside, and think about optics and political strategy. Do you at least concede that, politically speaking, when it comes to optics, it is not advantageous to accuse childless people in America of not caring about the future of the country because they don't have kids? Well, like, that is an incredibly
honest. The greatest thing you can do as a woman is give life. Now, it's the greatest thing you can do as a human, I would say, because men can't give life. They can help produce life, but they can't give birth. There's no job that can replace that. There's no amount of money that could replace that. Now, there are going to be some people that want to pursue that life. Good on them. Let them go. But it's not going to be the majority, unless they've been indoctrinated to become work machines, cyborgs. They go to work and they spend 4/5 of their money having someone look after their kids and indoctrinate their kids. And their kids don't know who the hell they are.
People
You can say offensive if you want.
people find that offensive,
But
right?
I mean, it's also a very pro-family sentiment too, saying
I
that.
love family.
No,
Yeah.
I'm glad.
That's also an accusation, right? Like the idea that if you don't have your own kids, you don't care about family. Like,
That's great that you love family. Oh, amazing. Like I said, I think she had nieces and nephews. She loves them. Fantastic. Now that'll go to the next level when you have your own.
Well, I'm not saying that. What you're asking me, is it smart politics? What he said was a couple years ago, before he was the VP, and I think that's important because, first of all, it's even before he was a Senate candidate. But even if he said it today, I would defend the essence of what he was saying, which is that when you have a group of people that are not attached, their public policy decisions are not immediately impacting the things that they cherish the most, and it's much more distant and much more detached, and much more foreign, then public policy feels much more like playing risk than actually managing your home. And I think that's a big mistake. Conservatism at its best is trying to say, forget the abstractions. What's happening in the neighborhood? What's happening at church? What's happening with the family? But yeah, look, I share JD Vance's view on these things.
Yeah. So I'll say one last thing, and then I want to ask you about walls because you asked me about walls. So look, I wrote a lot about this in my book, actually, Justice is Coming, because that's my main thesis on the difference between the left and the right, that the right is not indecent. A lot of people on the left think, oh, they're immoral, they're bad. And of course, the right thinks that about the left, et cetera. No, the right wing can be wonderful, but they have tighter wagons, right?
But do you understand that though? Do you know where that comes from?
Yeah, I totally get where it comes from.
And I get the energy where it's like, I want to save the entire world. I'm like, okay, but like, how about you try to not have 70 shootings a weekend in Chicago before you tell me you're going to fight climate change?
Well, I say we could.
You gotta see that, right?
No, I definitely say, but we could definitely do both, Charlie. It's not either or.
Let's stop the shootings.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, look, I would love to stop the shootings.
50% of kids are childless obese in this country, right?
That's what them is stopping the shootings,
right?
Both in Chicago and the mass shootings and all of that. And there, us populists, right wing and left wing, agree because we say like, why are we spending money in Israel? Or you would say Ukraine, right? And Israel has universal health care, they have paid family leave, they have all these things that we would love and we don't have.
Economics
and
plus
great
2022.
Yeah, and so, well, we could disagree about that. So
we got you there.
No, I don't know.
Good deportations.
No, yeah, I would argue that we got you on that.
I don't want to go
Israel's incredibly harsh and cruel, et cetera, on those things. But my point is, yeah, I get it. Take care of our families first before you start dropping bombs in the Middle East, et cetera.
We agree.
Oh, yeah. And so there are gradations of it, but don't hate the others. You know, if they're outside your wagons, they're not necessarily your enemies. They just happen to be in a little bit further circle away from you. And we're trying to, as progressives, we're trying to get you to empathize with people outside your wagons. But okay.
So there we have it. I think Charlie dropped a nuke on TYT and exposed Cenk for his hypocrisy when it comes to his political decisions, either that or his family. He's putting everyone before his family, but when we dug deeper, he does make decisions based on the safety of his family, like I thought he would all along. Now, Anna, she doesn't have children at the moment. She has extended family who she loves, but I'm sure her decisions would change a lot when it's not just her and her husband and they've got offspring. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'll jump in there as I normally do. Thanks for tuning in. Before you leave, don't forget to hit that like, smash that subscribe, ring the notification bell, share this video far and wide, and I'll catch you in the next video.